everybody. I'm Jonathan Sigg.
I'm April Sigg.
And as you may or may not know, we're the founders of the Laser Lounge Spa and the Aesthetics Lounge and Spa. We've been watching a lot of different podcasts, and we thought this would be something good for us to do because we would really like to share our story and show people our growth. And we got a lot of fun stuff we could share with you along the way. We got stories like we could write a book on half the stuff that's happened in this business, right? And not just with us, but with our staff and clients too. So we thought it'd be a fun way to share it through a podcast. So this is episode one, number one. We hope you enjoy it.
Why our life is crazy.
Why our life is crazy, yeah. So this is the story of our life. Everybody thinks, you know, you're in aesthetics, it's a good time, and, you know, you run a business that you started from nothing, and it's interesting how many times clients, you know, at the end of the day, you work your day, you go home 5 o'clock, you just relax, and we're like, that's half our day. What are we doing after 5?
Computers, phone calls, meetings.
You name it. It goes till...
Cooking dinner, doing laundry all at the same time.
Until how late at night?
11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Easily midnight. So this is like half our day here. So, but you do it because you love it and it's fun. So, you know, I go back and think about why we got into this business. And I've told you before, a lot of times people tell us, you know, I got into aesthetics because I had this love for skincare and I always wanted to do derm and make people feel good. And what do I say about that?
That's not true. You had a hairy back.
I had a hairy back. Exactly right. It was not at all about honestly making people necessarily feel better for themselves. So that the fact that I loved skincare, it was more about, look, I had a back that I wanted hair removal done on, and could I do this at a better price?
We didn't even do toxin. I was against it in the beginning.
We weren't doing any injections at all. And it was about how do we really make this more affordable for people? So we wanted to help people, but to say skin was our passion, I can't say that was the case. It was we wanted to get stuff done ourselves, but show people everybody could do this. And hence... I
couldn't afford the $3,600 package for your back at Ideal Image.
That's where we went to first. That's right. And then I found the other little shop.
Gift for you.
You get to keep your hairy back. I had to keep my sweater for all another year, which is not what I wanted, but it was more for you than me. But so hair removal, that's where we began. When people hear the name, the Laser Lounge Spa, like where did that come about? And it came about because that's really what we started with.
That's it.
Just laser hair removal.
Laser hair removal, massage and facials.
And massage and facials, yes. And so, do you remember the first time we decided to get into this and I called you?
We say we, it was you.
Well, you jumped right on board though, right?
I had to.
Right. So I called you. I was at the gym where we were living at the time, and I was like, you know, that place I was going to, the hair removal, I really liked it, and it actually went out of business. You remember that? I went there, knocked on the door, and
for your 4th treatment,
and the guys closed. They're not there, and I'm like, what? No, this is during the recession, so everybody's having problems. So I called you up and I'm like, what if we call this guy up and say, you know, what are you doing with that laser machine? Maybe we could make it work. And you're like, I don't remember what your first thought was.
I was at my nursing rotation at the hospital, and I said, what is wrong with you? What are you thinking?
So we decided to kind of...
money for this.
We had no money for it, but, you know, I'm kind of a wheeler and dealer, as you know. So anyways, we called up Corey, was his name, who owned the place, and the place had shut down. I'm like, Corey, what's going on? I'm like, what? I got like still half a hairy back left. We're not done yet. We got to finish this. He's like, I can't keep this going. And so sat down with him. If you remember, I went out one evening with him, met him at the bar, and told him, I said, Corey, I said, let us use your machine. If I can have your machine, I'll give you $500 a month for it. And if it works, then we continue with it. If it doesn't, then we give it back to you.
Didn't you only have a paper towel to write that up on?
That's it. We're in the bar. Yeah, it was actually on a paper towel that was from the bartender. And we wrote up a little contract on there. And I said, what do you do with the machine now? He says, sit in my closet. We're like, all right, cool. So brought the machine over and we had our first laser.
For $500.
$500 written on a paper contract. And that's how the Laser Lounge Spa basically began.
But then you wheeled and dealed with the corner unit at the
plaza.
Plaza there.
Yep. So
they gave you 8 months free rent. You couldn't afford it.
Right. So same thing too. During recession, we talked to the landlord at the building, and he had, I think, 2 stores in there maybe?
Yeah.
And it was maybe 12 to 15 shops he could have in there, and only 2 were full. So it was vacant. And so we told him, look, we'll put a sign up, lights, it'll look at this activity, this will look good for you because stuff's happening, but we need some free rent. And he wrote us a contract for 8 months free rent, and now we had a space. Still had nothing more than $500 out of our pocket, but then we need to build out money, right?
So I was the only one with good credit at the time.
I was awful. You're right. I had nothing at the time. I wasn't even working.
So
Remember,
I
I
did
didn't
get a
even work.
small credit card to help with the build out.
Yeah. I think
local store.
we actually maxed out your credit card because we had, I
did.
think, upwards of 20,000 on it.
Yeah.
And with the entire build out with that, which
Nighttime.
at nighttime without pulling permits, right? Because we couldn't even afford the permits.
We didn't know about having.
We didn't understand anything about a build out. We're like,
we would have, but we didn't know.
Yeah. So nighttime by flashlights, we framed this place up, and suddenly a sign comes up and doors open, and people are like, where'd this come from? Oh, it's always been here. Just didn't turn the lights on yet. So, and it's during the recession. So I think a lot of the, people in the cities and whatnot, nobody's working much. Nobody's asking any questions. So suddenly the Laser Lounge Spa was opened, and it just came out of
we thought, wow, that was easy.
Out of thin air.
Open a business, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Little did we know.
So we get the first laser in there, and you remember who our staff was?
Yeah, Carmen. Yeah.
Well, basically you and I is what our staff was. Yeah. We had a massage therapist that we rented a room out to, but it was you and me.
Yeah.
And I still to this day cannot figure out how we staffed it.
You taught me how to run the laser. You taught me how to run the front desk. You taught me how to answer the phone.
Well, we taught each other. I hadn't done this stuff before either.
We took our laser training for the laser machine.
Yep. And suddenly you were the front desk person, and then you'd run back and do the laser treatment.
Then I'd come back out.
Because you had to check the person out with the credit card. And then you greeted them and said goodbye, and then you cleaned the room and did it again. And then closed down because we couldn't afford any staff. So we staffed ourselves. And we'd switch this off while the other one's at home watching the kids.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't afford to hire anybody else. And then we were 3 months in.
3 months, that's it.
And what happened then? It was...
Broke down.
The laser. So our laser, our $500 laser, it broke down. And then we found out that this laser came all the way from like England. London, yeah. Like, what the? There's no technician that's going to fly here to fix this laser for us.
So it cost us $1,500 to ship it there.
That's right. And we're like, where do we get $1,500? We're selling $300 laser hair removal packages, which was our kind of spin on all this. Like you talked about, like Ideal Image was like thousands of dollars. Like, why does it have to be that much? And we do underarms. Our first package was,
I think it was $399.
Like $399, yeah.
6 treatments.
Yeah, 6 treatments, $400. And then we were really not bright at that time either because we really wanted to catch people. So we said a lifetime warranty on it. That was my favorite.
Dumbest thing we ever did.
So I think to like the last year, we still had people from 15 years ago coming back. By the way, I have a lifetime with you.
But we still honor it.
Oh my God, we still honored it. Yeah. But we did that to get people in like, this is great forever and ever. So, but it sold packages at $400, got underarms done, and people were coming in.
Hair was gone. It was gone forever. Didn't realize the whole hormonal cycle at the time.
So we had a lot to learn with that, but it got a number of people in the door, and then the machine broke down. We shipped it to London, but it's gone for, how long was it?
6 months.
6 months, yeah. So that was a long time with the laser. And that's when we realized we got to do something different, diversify. And that's kind of when the injectables came. We had our first rep come out to us and say, you guys should consider this. And again, 15 years ago, not many people were doing Botox and fillers.
Right away, you went and took your classes and got certified.
And we started offering a little Botox here, a little bit of filler there. And but we knew we needed more money. We needed capital because now we had a broken laser. We still couldn't afford the space. Our 8 months was coming to an end.
And our family did not have faith in us.
Yeah, they thought this was the dumbest thing ever. This was not smart.
They did not help at all.
Yeah, but I think about some of the times when we went through, when we were
crazy.
They all thought we were crazy because we could. You were just about done nursing school. I was a PA. I'd get a job just about anywhere, but my background in being emergency medicine, you know how much I loved that. Doing that for 10 years, totally burnt out. So I remember I still doing that at nighttime. I worked nights there, come to spa to work the days when I could with you.
You had a bed in the back you could sleep on.
That's right. We put a bed in the back so the clients didn't know, but in between clients I would sleep because I'd work that night again for 12 hours in the ER. If they would have known that I was half asleep when I did their injections at the time, that probably would have turned a few people off, but they had no idea. And then, but we had so many struggles then too. I think of, the first time that we couldn't pay our electric bill.
Right.
And to me, that still to this day, I can remember sitting there with our 2 young kids and our power going out. Like, what are we going to do? And what did you tell us to do? Pray. We're people with faith. We grew up. I mean, a lot of people don't know that April and I, we actually met each other in a church youth group. Both of our parents were actually
Our
pastors.
dads were ministers.
And so we met that way. So we had a deep faith, and we believed that there was, higher power that's making all this happen. And we're sitting there, and we're like, "What are we going to do?" And she said, "Let's pray." And so we have a prayer together, and the doorbell rings, and I go to the door, and I'm like, "Who are you?" And he's, "I'm with the electric company." And you had, how did this come about?
I signed up for a sweepstakes on the email. I was going on my emails and it said, register to win $5,000 if you
Or customer.
of FPL and tell us how good we did.
And there's hundreds of thousands of people registering. And true story, we sit down, let's pray for a minute. Doorbell rings.
I wasn't home though.
Why weren't you
It was
home?
the next day.
Oh,
I was at school.
You were at school, but when did they come to the door?
When you were home.
Oh, I was home. Okay,
Yeah.
but we prayed together.
We prayed the day before.
The day before. I'm sorry. Okay, so we prayed. We sat down and prayed the day before. What are we going to do? We have no power in the house, and I'm sitting at home. You weren't home,
I wasn't.
right? Doorbell rings. I go at the door, and who is it? A representative from FPL saying, "By the way, you just won $5,000.
Giving you a check.
Gave me a check for $5,000, just like that." We're like, just blown away.
And you said, "Can I give it back to you so you can turn my power on?"
It's like, "I just want my electricity back." He said, "No, sir, this is real. You got to sign a document and a waiver and all this stuff." And I'm like, calling you. I'm like, "You wouldn't." I said, why did we get this? And you're like, "I just filled it out, And so of all people, the ironic part for us to lose our electricity, and of all people, the electricity people give us $5,000. Very ironic, but that's where, again, it builds on and shows why we had faith a lot of this too.
Absolutely.
So that got us through one of those little cushions there to help us get through that part of it. And then the second part is we needed, like we said, capital for the business. Our laser was crapped out. We couldn't really afford to get it fixed. We're doing injectables. And so we checked out some machines that we could buy. We checked out our newest location that we're in here today, actually, and realized we need some money. And then we met this wonderful man, Ken Sutherland, right? And you remember? Yeah.
Very devout Christian that we knew.
Yes, so. Yes. Actually met him through a church also. He said, "What is your plan?" Yeah. And he came together with what? How many people?
5 total.
Yeah, 5 buddies, and they called themselves like
Paradise Partners.
Paradise Partners, yes. They formed a little group called Paradise Partners, and they said, "What do you need?" I said, "We need roughly $125,000 because we need a new laser. We want to do a build out. We really want to blow this thing out, but the banks aren't going to give us a dime, right?"
And they said, "That's all you want?" And we're like, "Yeah, that seems like a lot."
For us, it's a lot, but I think it was interesting because they all met, and these are all businessmen. One of them was a high executive accountant, and he sits down and he says to me, he said, "So let me see your P&L and balance sheet." And I look at him directly, if you remember, and I'm like, "What's a P&L and balance sheet?" And he goes, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." He goes, "How are you going to run a business? You don't even know what a P&L." I said,
"We're not business people."
I said, "We're not business people, but it's all right here." I said, "I know exactly how we're going to make this work, how we can make this sell, and how we can be successful." And the next day, Ken calls us and
he said, "All right, here's your check."
Gave us a check. All 5 guys dropped in $25,000 and called themselves Paradise Partners. They were golfers. And with interest and all, in 3 years, we paid them off.
We did.
Yeah.
3 years.
So we're able to give us that boost that we needed to get through it. So, it's
thankful for them.
Very thankful for them this day, and Ken still works for us to this day.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he still works for us today as advisors. Yes, it's just interesting because a lot of people, I think, sometimes think that we came into this by either somebody just gave us money, or we had money, or we had we came from nothing. We came from a $500 contract on a laser, and we're able to build this up with good people to get where it is now. We've been married now for
29 years.
You have to remind me, a long time, and which is a good thing. But I always told you from the beginning that it would never be a dull moment, right?
Never a dull moment. I didn't know what you meant by that.
I was like, you were not going to go through life and be like, "I led a good life and it was nice and I had these kids." I always told you it's going to be like this. But you will sit back one day and look back and be like, you'll be like, "That was a story I could write a book about." So, and where we're at today, it hasn't been boring. When we think about, still when we were struggling, and I think sometimes about kids and like the holidays, and
You didn't want any more kids after 2. I wanted
Right.
one more.
Yes.
We waited 8 years, and then you came to me in our lowest part of our life. Lowest as in poorest part of our life. We're always happy. And you're like, let's have a baby. I'm like, what?
You're like, who
I
are
am
you?
36 years old. Took me 6 months to say yes.
Yeah, I know, but you did. You said yes.
I did.
So then we had our son.
We had our son.
Still running the
Thank
place. We had a little bit of staff then, which was good, but you were still
We had
front
2
desk all the
more.
time.
Didn't have money for a sitter, so Luca came with us.
Yes, yes. And then that, I think
First
of
9
always our
months.
very, very first bad review.
I don't know why it was bad.
Well,
Guy was
bad to
weird.
some, but do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I was breastfeeding at the front desk, checking out. Not that anybody knew.
You just lead off with that.
Up along with my milk supplier, and the guy was checking out, and he was perfectly fine. All of a sudden, Luca kicked his leg up,
His foot goes up a bit.
and he's like, "What's under there?" I'm like,
Mm.
"My baby." And then
So a few days later, we get this review, 1-star review.
apparently,
And it says that, good spa, like the services, but don't really appreciate the front desk lady breastfeeding us. She's checking me out. And we're like, okay, so new rule in the rule book, all staff cannot breastfeed your baby at the front desk. That's a big no-no. We found out that gives you a bad review. But it's the kind of struggles that we had no choice. You couldn't just put him down or anything. You had to hold him. And it was funny how many clients I remember to this day that we still have that saw that and to this day remind me, I remember when you were still had that baby at the front desk, and how is he now? Like he's 13. And I'm like, oh
we
my
had a
gosh.
Johnny jumper hanging from the.
That's
door
right.
for our
And
boyfriend.
yep. He would sit inside that and bounce inside of there. So they're checking you out and they're going like, oh, your kid. Yeah. Bouncing up and down right behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
You did not like it at all.
No, I did not. No, I didn't think it was a very professional thing to have in our business, but our people,
run.
it became family, very much family. Yeah. Yeah. Which, as we kept expanding and growing into things, when we think about where we went from one store, we were how many years in before we expanded? We were
5 full years in.
5 years. We had the one store for 5 years, right? And for I think the first 4 of that, I still did the ER. Was it 4 years? So I would work the 12-hour nights in the ER. You were still working with school and with the kids at home, working the spa. And then during the day, I'd come here and do the injections. A lot of people think that lasted for months or whatever. This was years we did this.
I worked for a general surgeon 2 days a week.
That's right. Yep. Yep. So working full-time, nights and days for 4 years to make this whole thing grow. Because everything I did in the ER, we had to put back into it because this was not making any money. But then when it started to turn a little bit and our ER friends started seeing you guys are kind of getting out of the ER, like something must be working. And that's when Billy Morris, who,
Otto.
yeah, first Billy and then Otto, like a few months after that, 2 buddies from the ER, like, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And like, well, we could show you how to do it. And then we thought, well, we've got a decent model now. Could we repeat this? And Billy was the first one to knock on our door and say, I want to do this. And, got his up and going, and Otto was short to follow. So that's kind of how we got expanded on that second and third store.
Guys there too.
Yeah,
Dear
two
friends.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned family because they
didn't believe in us. They thought we were nuts, crazy, bonkers. But now
we have how many?
most of our siblings are in
our
the spa
company.
business with us at
Right.
different locations.
We've got one managing one up in
Both of
Michigan.
your
We've got
siblings.
one owning one up in Michigan, another one in a couple in Indiana running them, and so I don't know if they thought they were
My
crazy, but
sister.
I think they saw that it finally that it
My
worked.
sister-in-law, yeah.
Your sister-in-law too, yes.
My brother opened a spa, but
We could make it work, and then they had belief in it too. So so it's very much family oriented, not just because we family in it, but all of our locations now. So up
we
to,
just want everyone to succeed.
and that's been, I think, from the beginning.
And we wanted, if we were blessed, we wanted other people to be blessed too.
Very much so. We did not. Our thing was if we do well, then we've said this in posts before and whatnot too. So if we're doing well, you're doing well also.
Right.
And
It's
as
not
I've given
for
my
us, us.
as I've given my example to our staff before too. Again, if I'm driving that Lambo, you're gonna drive a Mercedes or a Porsche. Again, you won't drive a Lambo.
You don't
but
drive a Lambo, but they already drive their Mercedes.
I told him I'm still not there yet, but yeah, but they're still driving. You're their Mercedes. Yeah, you're right. So it was. It's always been. I feel like our philosophy, giving back. I think of what we did 2 weeks ago with Haven for Hope.
Oh yeah.
Haven for Hope, right?
For Haven.
Yeah. So again, helping kids in third world countries. Been doing this 3 years in a row, and a lot of people I found out had no idea we were doing this. And yesterday they came by again and said, you have raised over $50,000 in 3 years for us. Like, I knew we were doing good as we cut them a check for 12 grand for the event we did last week for them. So it's not that I go around bragging. That's why people don't know about it, but it shows I like to think again to give back. We've been fortunate and blessed in a way that let's share that. And I think we feel that way about our staff too.
Of course. Do we suggest working with our spouse, or do we suggest having people work with their spouse? I don't know.
That's your response, Aaron?
Sometimes it's great. Overall, I love working with my best friend. That's the easy part.
I think you have to be passionate about what you do, and I don't think there's a lot of couples where they both enjoy necessarily the same thing. Right. And we've always enjoyed medicine, both of us have, right. And we truly do. I think are passionate about making people feel better, right? And so when we work together, that's people see us at the office, and it's interesting, I think, when some of our corporate staff in particular, and when they can see things getting tense, and they all kind of
they're like, "Oh, mom and dad are fighting."
Like, mom and dad are fighting, and they slowly sneak out of the room like, "Nope, you're not done. Come back here." So they know that there's tension at times, and it's sometimes too. We obviously have some heated discussions, especially business side, but that makes it better too. Yes. We fix things and make things improved, and so yeah. Can everybody work together as spouses? Maybe not, but it can work because our success, a lot of times people look at me because of my injections and because I'm the talky one and whatnot, but have always been with the quieter side of the business, but I could have never done this without you, right? So it's always been a team effort, us doing this together. So it can be done.
I can't take it personally, even though you get very upset with me sometimes, but apparently it's not at me, it's at everyone else.
I always tell you that. I said, no, it's someone else, but you're my sounding board. I have to let you know about it.
And that's okay.
But where it's gotten us today again too, kind of coming full circle from starting from, that humble beginning and that broken down laser that's actually still in our garage. We're going to bring it to our event here. Next week, we have our 15-year anniversary. Yeah. Which is, I think, kind of a big deal.
Yes.
I know that locally people are excited because in 4 hours we had almost 200 people RSVP to come to this event.
Excited to see who everyone is.
So we will have some of our paraphernalia and bring out that old laser to show people how it all began. So it'll be fun. But going from that one store to now at 17, and then we have 2 more in the works right now too, which we have not announced yet, but we've signed on 2 new locations in different parts of the country, which is very exciting, that it continues to grow. But it's always been, I think, for us about family.
It is.
The team.
We like family-like organizations, yes. We don't want anyone to feel like they're being slighted.
Our team has always been family to us. And I think which it'll be fun in future podcasts, as we sit down with some of them and talk about some interactions and stories. And we have employees with us 12 years now, that came right out of college and, are working with us still to this day because we treat them as family. So it's always been for us kind of the golden rule.
It is.
Which
we treat people the way you want to be treated.
Exactly, 100%. So if I don't want to be treated that way, then I shouldn't treat somebody else that way. And
we never go to bed mad.
That's a trick too, yeah. People's like, what's the success to your marriage? And yeah.
I go to bed mad, just not at you.
Just not at me, yes. We solve our problems before we go to bed. It doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We will talk through it before we fall asleep, for sure. Right. Yeah. And business too. So yeah. I feel like I've spent more time with you now than sometimes I spend with you all day long.
I agree.
This has been enjoyable to have an hour with you here. Oh. I'm looking forward to the next opportunity. We do this again. I like to get more of our staff involved too. Definitely. And I think it'd be helpful to show viewers again, what you can achieve, starting from not much of anything. But if you're interested in the aesthetic business, which this is booming, as we know, and taking off, there's a lot we have to offer. We were doing this before many others were doing it. So how do you make it happen? No, well, that's why we're a continued business, right? So unfortunately, everybody is growing old, but it's a continued stream of people for us. But I look forward to sharing with people again what we can teach others, share with you some of our experiences also, a lot of laughs along the way. Again, I could write a book with this staff that we have and the experience we've had, but hopefully people can learn something from us too.
Well, if you like what you heard and want to hear more, like and subscribe us. Otherwise, we won't waste our time.